I broke up a 10-year-long relationship because he was cheating with my friend. This story is messy and involves a bunch of people, so I apologize if it's a bit confusing. I'm also not going to be using any of the real names of these people, just cause I don't want to dox anyone. For some context, these are the people involved in this story. Nancy. She has been a terrible friend to me for years. She constantly talks crap about me, calling me a slut, addict, alcoholic. My mom struggles with alcoholism, so that comment was very hurtful, and all kinds of nasty things behind my back. I've confronted her so many times, and she just gets mad and denies it. Andy. Also a terrible person. He makes racist, homophobic, and sexist comments, is a complete asshole to Nancy, cursing at her, calling her names and lying to her. Casey. Andy's girlfriend of 10 years, never married, that lives with him. It all started when I joined a group chat with Nancy, Andy, and a bunch of our friends. Nancy met Andy online when she was 13, and has been friends with Andy ever since. Nancy I've known since middle school. Andy lives out of state with his girlfriend Casey. Nancy was dating Jerry, who is an absolute sweetheart, and started cheating on him with Andy. She then breaks up with Jerry, by rudely telling him he was gay. Jerry is bisexual, and got really hurt and confused about his sexuality after that. This made me furious, because I'm also bisexual and understand how confusing it can be. Also, I don't think it's her or anyone's right to tell someone what their sexuality is. When I found out Jerry was cheated on, I immediately told him. Jerry was pissed, but never confronted Nancy or Andy. So Nancy and Andy's relationship continued. I knew Andy was dating Casey, and was tempted to tell her as well. She's famous on TikTok and I knew I could message her through her direct messages. But Nancy constantly reassured me that Andy was going to leave Casey. So I was very much under the impression the relationship would end soon. But I start to get really skeptical of Andy. Andy's constant racist, homophobic, and sexist remarks begin pissing me off, but Nancy constantly defends him. One time, he got pissed at us and called us a bunch of faggots, because none of us are straight. But Nancy says, if he was really homophobic, why would he be dating me? Lisa, our friend, tells her he doesn't have to respect you to date you, and this pisses her off even more. As their relationship continued, Andy began treating Nancy more and more like crap. He also kept promising Nancy he'd leave Casey to be with just her. Andy began flying to our state to spend time and hook up with Nancy, then go back to his state to be with Casey. I constantly told Nancy, telling her this relationship was bad and she should break it off. But she wouldn't. She kept making up excuses and would just get angry with me. So I gave up trying to help her. Nancy then decides to get a second boyfriend because she's so unsatisfied with how Andy treats her. His name is Zane. For a little bit, Nancy seemed happy with Zane, saying how amazing the sex was and that he was funny, amazing person. But Nancy soon becomes unhappy with Zane as well, and breaks it off. So I never met Zane or had the ability to tell him about Andy and Nancy's relationship. But Andy was skeptical about Nancy and Zane, and asked her if they ever slept together. Nancy says, they almost did. And Andy goes nuts. He accuses Nancy of ruining his relationship with Casey, and curses her out. Nancy then makes up a fake sexual assault accusation against Zane, saying Zane was intimidating her and she was worried he was gonna get violent. But Andy doesn't believe her, yet continues to stay with Nancy. She then tells the same fake sexual assault story to Lisa for sympathy, saying that Zane and her were never together, and was worried he'd become violent. Lisa freaks out, and has a hysterical meltdown because she believes Nancy was raped. Lisa has anxiety issues, so she had a panic attack because of Nancy's lie. When Lisa tells me all this, I tell her it isn't true. Because Nancy told me they were together and constantly talked about how amazing the sex was. Lisa and I confront Nancy about these allegations, and she half admits to it. Lisa then goes off on Nancy, and says they are no longer friends. I start to become fed up with Nancy and Andy's crap. I held out hope that Andy would leave Casey, like he promised, so he wouldn't keep leading Casey on, but it was just empty promises. Looking back at it now, I believe he would never leave Casey. So me, Lisa, and several others decide to tell Casey the truth. So we plan it all out. Lisa provides screenshots of Andy and Nancy's conversations in the group chat, and our friend Emily sends Casey screenshots. Immediately Casey confronts Andy, and they are no longer together. Andy is with Nancy now, but Nancy is pissed at me and everyone else for telling Casey the truth, saying it was malicious of us. And we were trying to break her and Andy up. I tell Nancy it wasn't to break up her and Andy, but Casey deserved to know the truth. They'd been making a fool out of her for too long, and if I was in Casey's situation, I would want someone to tell me also. I feel slightly bad that I ended a 10-year-long relationship. I realize it was none of my business to get involved, but I think it was the right thing to do. Plus, Nancy and Andy had it coming in my opinion. Update. I've decided to cut Nancy and Andy out of my life. I realize I have given her so many chances but she won't change, so that'll be happening soon. I'll give you guys another update when that goes down.